Well, as I said today, in order to finish this year with two brilliant speakers, we are going to have Dr. Yvonne Lugo, and also we are going to have Dr. Josefina Villamil Tinajero. Okay, I'm going to talk details about her her backgrounds. So, Dr. Yvonne Lugo has been the Spanish department head at Northwest
Yes.
Early College High School since 2023. Okay,
Yes.
she she started working for Canutillo Independent School District in 2001
Mhm.
as a CTE, which is Career and Technical Educator teacher. The
Yes.
CTE focuses on preparing students with skills and knowledge to succeed in various career fields, emphasizing hands-on training and industry-relevant competencies. Dr. Lugo has taught in bilingual settings since 1982. How
Yes.
about that?
Yes. 42
She
years.
has taught
Yes.
in private. Yeah, exactly. She has
Mhm.
taught in private schools like Father Yermo High School
Yes.
and public schools for the El Paso Independent School District and
Mhm.
an alternative school, Raymond Tells Academy. How about
Yes.
that? Eh? All
Oh,
her
yes.
life, he vast experience in education. And we can say Dr. Yvonne Lugo received her ED, Doctors of Education degree from Grand Canyon University in
Yes.
2022. Okay.
Yes.
And she's publishing, excuse me, an empirical article with Taylor and Francis, National Association for Bilingual Education,
Mhm.
Journal of Research and Practice title, Exploring the Experience and Motivation of Novice Bilingual Elementary Teachers in Southwest Texas.
Yes.
Learning through the educational voices. Dr. Lugo is currently working on her book,
Yes. Fourth chapter
Motivate
now.
the
Last.
motivators from novice and experienced teachers. How about that? Eh? Congratulations. We want to see this book soon.
Yes. Next
Okay.
year.
Yes.
And also I'm gonna go with Dr. Josefina Villamil. How do you pronounce your name?
Villamil, Villamil,
Villamil.
Villamil,
Villamil
yes.
Tinajero. Okay. But she likes to call her Jessie, right?
Josie.
Josie.
Josie?
Mm-hmm.
Josie.
Yeah,
Josie.
Josie. Yeah, exactly. And El Chancel, currently professor of bilingual education, past dean of the College of Education at UTEP,
Mhm.
and immediate past special advisor for the vice president for research. Has dedicated her entire professional career to enhancing educational opportunities, English learners, their teachers, and parents in the U.S. She is also the director of the UTEP Mother-Daughter, Father-Son program and the chair of Do the Right Thing El Paso Challenge. She is a leading scholar, author, and an advocate of issues of equity and excellence for culturally and linguistically diverse children and families. A rich experience and knowledge about effective educational reforms and the roles of culture and language in school achievement have been key vehicles for affecting positive language in school districts across the U.S. and the U.S.-Mexico border. Her extensive publication record excludes a focus of literacy and by literacy for Spanish-speaking children, ESL, parent engagement, school university partnership, and school community collaboration with a focus on linguistically and culturally diverse populations. Lastly, Dr. Tinajero holds an EDD bilingual education from Texas A&M University in Kingsville, as she said a minute ago,
Yes.
and administrators principalship certificate from Our Lady of the Lake University, and a master's in supervision and administration and BS degree in elementary education, both from the University of Texas at El Paso. Okay, so as you can see, I say again, we had the most brilliant speakers closing the 2025 year for ASQ El Paso section 1401. Okay, so please, go in your presentations, and for sure we're expecting something very, very great from you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very, very much. Sorry
let's
about,
say
trying to upload this. I know Zoom very well. I would have been able to upload it right away, but this other program is a little different, but we learn something every day.
Of
Well, I
course.
want to start by saying that thank you very, very much for the invitation to be here to share with you some things on quality. We're going to be focusing on quality of bilingual education. And as we know, the United States has long benefited from its ability to attract and integrate immigrants into this country. And it's not only immigrants, it's people that have been born here, but their parents insist that their children continue to speak their native languages at home, right? So they may not be immigrants, but those children also go to school without, having the proficiency in English. But of course, our public schools have played a central role in this work, including many campuses offering bilingual instruction for immigrants and many other children who are born here but go to school without speaking, English. And in recent years, researchers have determined that these sort of bilingual programs are the best models for meeting the needs of English learners. And you're going to have here at times, different references how we refer to these children, right? Sometimes it's English language learners and English learners, and now it's emergent bilinguals, right? Because there's been a lot of research and the field has moved, from at one point the word was LISA, limited English speaking ability. People thought that children had a limited ability to learn a language, right? And so the word was LISA way back then when bilingual education programs started many years ago. And it said that children were limited in their ability to learn a language. And no, the word LEP, limited English proficient, came about because the work of Chomsky, one of the great researchers in bilingual education, said every human being has the potential to learn a language. These children are not proficient in the language because they have not been exposed sufficiently to this language. But anyway, bilingual education has gone through, ups and downs, and there's been a lot of shifting of political winds that have often reduced the school's numbers of students that have participated in the program. And as some of you may know, this year, the administration, our current administration at the federal level, has released a series of orders pushing the federal government towards a monolingual English-only approach to K-12 education. And in addition, the administration's budget proposes to eliminate a wide range of programs that support English learners, including the Elementary and Secondary Act, Title III. Almost all the monies for Title III were lost this year, almost, right? But there was a tremendous effort from a lot of people throughout the United States, mostly educators, that lobbied their congressmen. And so those funds were finally distributed to states because Title III has been the largest federal funding stream focused on supporting the students and their linguistic and academic development. There's research for quality bilingual programs, but for some reason, sometimes we don't pay attention to our research, right? So I'm going to provide a little bit of background and a brief history of bilingual education in the United States. There is a lot to share, but I have put this together in a short PowerPoint to share with you. Mm-hmm. I think that all of us would be interested in providing a world-class education for our students. And here's one of our researchers, Catherine Lindholm, that defines a world-class education. It's one that promotes the multilingual and multicultural competencies necessary for the new global business job market, while eradicating the significant achievement gap between language majority and language minority students, right? There is a tremendous achievement gap between our language minority and language majority student. And part of it is because we have not provided, programs for educational excellence for our students who come to school sometimes not having the proficiency in English. And most countries define a world-class education as mastery of the national language, mastery of academic content, and mastery of a second, third, or even a fourth language. This is in many parts of the world. The United States has been different in many ways, right? Anyway, our Catherine Lindholm, our researcher, says that we have to prepare every single child in America to meet world standards, right? And part of those world standards is that they can speak more than one language. And because our children are expected to work by national design in a global environment, and more, our world is shrinking, and there's a demand for people to speak and be able to understand each other and speak more than one language. Because we live in an interdependent world, and this world, this kind of world demands linguistic, cultural, technological, and socio-psychological preparation. So our schools must teach the languages of the world and the power of those languages, along with, just like world history and world geography and economics, etc. I've been committed to this work for many, many years. And I think we've made a difference, certainly in our community in the state of Texas and throughout the United States. And I also go internationally, present very often in Spain. They've invited me every year for the last 8-9 years to go present. Talking about global marketability, what does it mean to educate a child globally? Well, that means preparing our children to meet the educational competence for the new global business market. Now, not only the 21st century, but the 22nd century, which includes bilingualism and biliteracy. And the global economy calls for high performance work organizations and workers who have very well developed minds, who have a passion to learn and can put knowledge to work. Workers to be creative and responsible problem solvers, to apply and analyze information, analyze thinking skills, identify new resources, and individuals who can work together in 2 or more languages. I wanted to share a study that was done. It's been done a couple of times. And this was a survey that was sent to executives of the USA's 1,000 largest companies in the United States. And they were asked, what kind of person are you looking to hire in your enterprise, in your business, right? And they said, well, we want people that can work in teams, people that are critical thinkers, and on and on and on, and people who are bilingual, they said, right? And so these executives were asked, well, if they're bilingual, what languages would you like for them to speak? Well, 63% said, Spanish. Japanese, 16% said Japanese. And then you have Chinese, 11%, and then a smaller percentage for some other languages. So we have the business community here, the executives of the USA's 1,000 largest companies saying that they want people to be bilingual. We need the business community to come out and say, we need bilingual people, right, in the job market. So that would definitely send a message to our schools, and not only to our schools, but to our politicians, that they need to support, bilingual programs. Anyway, wanted to share that study that's been out there for a number of years. So academic success for today's emergent bilinguals. Now we're using emergent bilinguals, right, instead of English learners. But you'll still see that, that label, because it appears in the legislation that has been put out, by Congress, because they haven't kept up with the most recent vocabulary that is used in the research. But emerging bilinguals are often referred as English language learners or English learners. And so success for these students is for them to be able to achieve academically, and that is these programs of bilingual education should be closing the achievement gap between our non-English speakers and our English speakers, right? And they should be achieving high levels of linguistic, cognitive, and academic development, and achieving, of course, bilingualism and biliteracy. This is what the United States is looking at right now, right? A tremendous diversity throughout the United States, our changing demographics, and it's, it provides challenges, but opportunities as well. Right now, we have over 6.5 million English learners in the United States, and this number, is continuing to grow. So definitely there's a tremendous need for quality bilingual programs to be put in place. And certainly the research states that, that there are certain bilingual programs that are quality programs that are closing the achievement gap for students, but also providing opportunities for students to be bilingual. So one of our researchers states that by 2050, it is likely that every class in the United States will have emergent bilingual students. Emergent bilinguals are students that are, learning English as a second language, right? And 45% of teachers in the U.S. have EBs in class right now, emergent bilinguals in their classes. If we look at Texas, in kindergarten, right? These are the home languages that we find among our population in our schools here in Texas. And people talk about, kids talk about, they speak about 200 languages. So how can we provide a bilingual program? Well, wait, 96% of the students in Texas who speak a language other than English, speak Spanish, right? We can certainly establish programs, bilingual programs that are going to engage our Spanish speakers. Here's the number of, there's different program models that have emerged over the years according to the research that has been done. We find more and more effective ways of implementing bilingual programs. And you have Proposition 227 in California that simply immerse, students in a bilingual program or learning English. Really, it was not a bilingual program. They immersed them in an English as second language program for 1 year, and they thought they would be ready, and they were not, right? And then there's the ESL program where they pull out the children who do not speak English. They pull them out of their regular class and take them to a teacher who is going to focus through a drill and kill approach, teach them English, and so on and so forth, including the one and the two-way dual language programs, which right now are the most effective programs. And I'll explain what one-way and two-way programs are in just a little bit. But here is some research that was done. You have on the left-hand side the achievement levels of students. And then on the right-hand side, you have the different program types. And you're going to see that the students that are achieving the most are the students that are, if they were to start in first grade and stay in the program until they're close to graduating, if they ever graduate. The ones in the two and one-way program are the highest achievers. And then those students in ESL pull out those transitional programs where they just use their native language for a very short period of time and quickly transition them into English. Those are the students that are achieving at the lowest level here. If they even graduate from high school, because many of them drop out of high school because they really can't, they're not able to function in the content areas in middle school and high school, and many of those students drop out of school. And I mentioned Proposition 227. That was the proposition in California. I was president of the National Association of Bilingual Education when this proposition was being voted on in California. And as you can see in this figure, the lines that are at the very bottom, that was the achievement level of those students that participated in Proposition 227 in California, that basically placed students not in the regular mainstream, curriculum, but they pulled them out of their class. And for 1 year, they just focused on trying to teach them English. And they missed on all the content that they were supposed to be learning in the first, second grade, whatever grade they were in. So they got behind and never were able to catch up with the rest of their class. That was very unfortunate. That Proposition 227 has been reversed now in California because they found out they made a major mistake. Here's quality programs versus remedial programs. On the left-hand side, I talked about the one-way and the two-way program. On the one-way program, the one-way program is only for English learners, right? It's only English learners are involved in those programs. But they're excellent programs because they're allowing the students to learn in their native language while they're learning English. But the two-way program, they mix the students that are proficient in English with the ones that are proficient in another language, and they learn from each other. Monolingual English speakers, for example, may be in a two-way program and they're learning Spanish, but at the same time, they're learning through their native language also, English. And the other programs, all the other ones that I mentioned, these are not quality programs, they're remedial compensatory programs for those poor little kids who don't speak English, right? That's the way we refer to those programs. Okay, and going on, here's a little bit more of the difference between, we call it additive or enrichment programs, because they add another language. And not only that, but students are able to acquire all of the academic content they need to acquire because they're learning it in their native language and understanding it. And as soon as they have sufficient proficiency in the second language, they're going to be able to access the knowledge that they already have from their own native language. Anyway, that's and the key points right now. This is why we need the business community out there saying we need bilingual education programs, because the least effective programs that we have in bilingual education, like transitional program, ESL pullout, etc., they are the most common in our public schools. And the most effective programs, which are the one-way, two-way, dual language programs, are the least common in our public schools. So by design, we decide the long-term achievement levels of our English emergent bilinguals, right? Which is very, very unfortunate because the research is already out there saying these are the most effective programs academically. Students are achieving at very high levels of content, but also in proficiency in more than one language. So here's the definition of dual language programs. We're sometimes not calling them anymore bilingual programs, but sometimes we say bilingual dual language programs. Since bilingual education got a very negative rap at some point because people were against bilingual, we're using dual language education programs, right? Dual language is a long-term additive bilingual bicultural program model that consistently uses two languages for instruction, learning and communication in the pursuit of bilingual, biliterate, academic, and cross-cultural competencies. So which programs, have all the characteristics that are essential for emergent bilingual success? Well, the one and two-way language programs. Research has consistently proven that already. Those kids studies show that English learners in bilingual programs, particularly dual language immersion programs, are more likely to become proficient in English, more likely to succeed academically, and more likely to fully develop their emerging bilingualism, right? So that's critically important. And here are the goals, of course, it's bilingualism, it's biliteracy, grade level academic achievement in both the first language and the second language. The L1 is first language, the L2 is the second language. and positive cross-cultural attitudes. So there's a little bit of information on two-way programs and one-way programs. The two-way programs, again, is where we mix English learners, even English monolinguals, with Spanish monolingual, or some children that are kind of speak a little bit of both languages, but mostly are Spanish speakers. And they're together, so there's needs to be a lot of professional development for teachers on how they are going to provide instruction in the classroom, right? How to put their lesson plans together so they can be effective in being able to reach out to the monolingual English speakers and monolingual Spanish. I was one of those teachers. I taught for 5 years before going on to my doctorates, and I wasn't a bilingual teacher, so I had kids who were monolingual English speakers, monolingual Spanish speakers, and everybody else in between. And it can be done. It can be done, and kids can achieve, a lot and be able to become proficient in 2 languages. One of my daughters is a bilingual teacher, and she is with the Isleta district. She has, like, this little boy is an Anglo little boy. He's reading a book in Spanish, and the other little boy is a Spanish speaker. But this little boy, monolingual English speaker, Anglo little boy, learned to speak and read in 2 languages in kindergarten. And this shows a two-way program. There's a 50-50 model and a 90-10 model. Basically, how much of one language and the other is used for instructional purposes. So 50-50 means the teacher uses 50% English and 50% Spanish for instructional purposes. The 90-10 starts with a very high percentage of the native language of students and only 10% in English, and then it increases until there's a 50-50 model where instruction is in 2 languages, half and half of the time. And the one way is all monolingual Spanish speakers that are learning English, but they also become bilingual by the time they are in the 4th or 5th grade. This is the model used by Isleta. 70% of their instruction was in Spanish in kindergarten and 30% in English. And then you can see when they're at the 6th grade, it's 50% in each of the languages. So by then, the kids are very, very bilingual by then, fully bilingual. And they take the state exams in one language or the other. If the program has been implemented and the teachers have received professional development, those kids do very, very well.
Yes.
But the teacher needs to know exactly what to do in the classroom. Anyway, I think I talked about that. I'm going to talk just a little bit about the history of bilingual education in the United States, because it's been a cyclical journey evolving from early linguistic diversity. As I mentioned, that the United States has long benefited from its ability to attract and integrate immigrants into our country. And so there's been a lot of it in the early years, the colonial years. But also there's been, a lot of tolerance. There's a lot of periods of tolerance, and then a lot of periods of English-only mandates. And eventually, there's been federal legislation and court rulings that have ensured educational opportunities for language minority students. And I'll share a little bit of what that federal legislation looks like. But in the early period, the colonial period to the late 19th century, there was widespread multilingualism in the United States. The U.S. has always been a home to multiple languages due to diverse immigrant populations and Native American tribes. Early bilingual education laws in the 19th century, several states and local communities adopted bilingual education policies, often in response to demands of large immigrant groups. The parents demanded that their children be taught, like in Ohio, for example, German English instruction upon parental request. In Louisiana, for many years, they had French and English. And in New Mexico, there was Spanish and English. But many local communities, particularly in the Midwest and Northeast, provided instruction in languages such as Polish, Italian, Czech, Norwegian without any formal state sanction. Then came all of the civil rights, that impacted by the bilingual programs. There was a revival of bilingual education because there was the civil rights movement of the 1960s that brought renewed attention to educational needs of minority students. And there was a very, very successful two-way bilingual program back in the 60s with the Cuban refugees. And that really inspired similar efforts, to be replicated throughout the country. Then came the Bilingual Education Act of 1968. Senator Yarborough introduced this in Texas, and Congress passed the first Bilingual Education Act, the Title VII of the Elementary and Secondary Act, which established federal policy for bilingual education and provided grants to school districts to implement innovative programs for economically disadvantaged language minority students, right? But we don't want them just for economically disadvantaged. We want them for all kids, for them to have the opportunity to be bilingual.
Yeah.
And then the big court case that went all the way to the Supreme Court was the Lau versus Nichols. This was brought about by the Chinese community in California. But the school district kept saying, well, we provide the same facilities and the same curriculum and the same everything, to these students as we do for everybody else. And the court basically said, just because you provide the same books and the same instruction and the same thing, where kids do not understand English, are foreclosed from a meaningful education, and the school districts have to provide instruction in a bilingual format, right? There was also the Equal Educational Opportunities Act, and then the Castañeda and Pickard in 1981 that established a three-part test for evaluating progress of English language learners, requiring them to be based on sound educational theory, implemented effectively with adequate resources, and proven to produce results. And then just wanted to mention the backlash that happened in English-only initiatives in California and actually in other states. Ron Unz became very popular because he introduced this as English for the children. Nobody was going to vote against this English for the children, right? And what it did is to do away with all bilingual programs in the state of California. They were outlawed in California, and so there's a generation of kids that got so very high behind. Many of them dropped out, and now they finally reversed that with Proposition 58, and that was in 2016, lifting restrictions on bilingual education, reflecting a renewed interest in the benefits of multilingualism in a global society. And right now, Hawaii is the only official bilingual state. The Bilingual Education Act, provided a lot of funds for innovative programs. And so it provided a lot of funding as well. There were amendments like in 78 to the Title VII. And it really emphasize the strictly transitional nature of native language instruction, which means we're using the native language only to transition kids to English. Once they learn English, they forget about their native language. But they also expanded eligibility of students who are limited English proficient and permitted enrollment of English-speaking students in bilingual programs as well. Before, those funds could not be used for English speakers who wanted to become bilingual. There were other amendments here to support family English literacy program and a lot of teacher training that was very, very critical in being able to implement quality programs. And then there were more amendments in 88. It established a 3-year limit on participation in most Title VII and created fellowship programs. I received one of these fellowships to do my doctoral program. Fellowship to the university to focus on bilingual education. 94, there were more amendments, and then there was the No Child Left Behind Act, which they called the Nickelby. It authorized the Elementary and Secondary Act of 65, but appropriated funds to states to improve the education of limited English proficient students. That was a term that was used at the time, limited English proficient. And then, so as educators, we commit ourselves to helping our children soar through quality bilingual dual language education programs. So that's my presentation. We'll open it up to questions, I think, after Dr. Lugo presents.
Yes.
That's the presentation.
Yes, the next part is, as you can see, oh, could I see the map again, please? The previous one? Okay, so the map is telling you that Spanish is a widely spoken global language, and doing global business needs global employees. That one right there. And we've got the benefits of jobs, opportunities, higher pay, and greater job satisfaction. On the next one, as Orphil was telling you, I was a CTE since 2001. On the next slide. And we would meet, we used to have 16 programs, now we have 14. And we would meet every single semester with educators and industry representatives. We would call it a study advisory committee. And we would sit down and we would go ahead and show them our textbooks. And I was very proud to have mine in English and Spanish and said, look, this is bilingual. And they went like, oh my God, you can do that? It's magnificent. Okay, and on the next slide, we have the first of the 14 programs of study. And you can see that agriculture, food, and natural resources, we have a lot because at the high school, they specialized in that. Then on the second one, we've got architecture and construction. I was able to go ahead and interview some of these professionals, and I interview an electrician with 19 years of experience. The advantage of being bilingual is that he can communicate with peers and delegate tasks. It also opens great opportunities for promotions. Number three, we have the arts, audio, video, technology, and communications. And I did interview. I went to Geek Squad at Best Buy West over here in the West. And I said, Mr. Casas, can I go ahead and interview you? It's okay. So he was telling me that he just got a promotion as a counterintelligence senior because he possesses the great tool of being bilingual. Communicating daily with different people and languages has improved his customer service interactions, and he feels a stronger connections with them. So I think that was fantastic. Number 4, we have business, marketing, and finance. And I asked one of my friends that he retired as a teacher, and now after 8 years of experience as an executive assistant to a financial company, she mentioned that working on the border with Mexico, knowing Spanish, has helped her achieve 100% job satisfaction. I was so proud of that. On the next one, we have the 5th program of study, and that's education and training. Another friend, a special educator teacher with 21 years of experience, said that in Canutillo High School, being bilingual helped with promotions, parents, and student communications, and it's so essential. On the 6th one, there's energy, and the one that I really like is renewable energy, STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. I didn't interview anybody for that one. And number 7, that is so essential for the students. Number 7, we have health science, and the one that, as you can see, that nurse, it doesn't look very friendly. But my sister Vicky started as a nurse, and she has 38 years of experience. Today, she's a doctor, surgical assistant. Her greatest personal satisfaction is being bilingual by able to communicate effectively with her patients. She really connects with her patients because she's bilingual. It's very nice. The 8th one, of hospitality and tourism. One of my students with 10 years of experience in the service industry is presently a chef. Being bilingual has helped her with customer service since the beginning of her career, and I'm very proud of her. I'm going for her next graduation next month. The next one, number 9, we have human service, and I was able to go ahead and interview a parent liaison in my school. It's part of the PTO in my school and has been working for 4 years. In her position, she has received monetary compensation because she is bilingual. So there was a promotion and money for her. The 10th one is information technology, and it's very interesting, all of those classes at the high school. On number 11, the 11th program of study is law and public services. I was able to go ahead and talk to one of our police officers, and he was telling me that under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the police agencies that receive any federal assistance must ensure their services are accessible to everyone. Otherwise, it constitutes negative or national discrimination. Police officers carry a copy of translations of Miranda rights, including how to access an interpreter, what to do when an interpreter is not available, and a language identification card that says I speak and blank blank with the language that he speaks. Bilingual law enforcement officers are more efficient in reporting crimes, describing suspects, gathering evidence, and providing protection. The goal is to communicate in diverse languages, serve and develop a strong, trusting relationship with immigrant community members. I thought that was interesting, and I really like that dog. Look at that. He's very trained. And then number 12, we have manufacturing. I interviewed Casito. He's my nephew. He's a professional welder with 3 years of experience. He has received promotions, monetary compensation, and more job opportunity because he's bilingual. I'm very proud of him. On number 13, we've got engineering. Okay, for electrical engineering, I have did interview my son, Joseph. He is a standard electrical engineer supervisor with 16 years of experience in the state of Maine. He has received promotions and monetary compensation for being bilingual. He travels to Mexico to approve suppliers of electrical transformers, and he visits his family over there in León, Guanajuato. Very proud of him. The 14th study program at Canutillo High School, we have transportation, distribution, and logistics. And one of our teachers is a pilot in my school, and he told me that to investigate the plane accident in Ternate, Spain from 1977. And what is that? So I went, and it was a collision of 2 Boeing airplanes, 747, on the runway at the same time that resulted in the loss of 583 lives. The deadliest aviation accident. One of the factors was the lack of language comprehension by pilots and controllers. One of the Dutch pilots said, "We are now in takeoff," instead of "we are taking off." After this devastating accident, the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, in 2003 set 6 standards of English proficiency: pronunciation, structure, vocabulary, fluency, comprehension, and interactions. Very important. Okay, and the last slide, well, we know that the high quality of bilingual education and its applications with professionals are essential in today's world, and it can even save lives. Are there any questions?
Any questions? We're glad to answer or elaborate. So we can see that being bilingual can be a tremendous asset in the workforce.
Yes.
And so, but we have to start working with our children that go to school, and we do not want them to lose their, the assets that they bring to the classroom, and that's their native languages, because there was a time when all children went to school and basically was all English, 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 and they lost their native languages. Right? And what we want to do through bilingual education is to not only maintain their native language, but continue to develop them to a high level of proficiency. And of course, English being critically important as well, so that they can become, fully bilingual. And so there are some schools here in El Paso that K through the 12th grade, they continue those programs to make sure that those students, are bilingual. A number of years ago, when we had the state conference here in El Paso, I brought together a number of students who had graduated from high school and had been in a bilingual program since they were in the first grade or kindergarten. And they talked about the benefits that they had in the workforce, because they had been bilingual. And a couple of the students said, I didn't have to be bilingual in the job that I was offered, but the interviewers were so impressed that I was able to speak two languages very fluently and a third language to some extent, that they hired me because they were impressed that I was almost trilingual, right? But the other kids, said, being bilingual had been a tremendous asset in being able to get, the jobs that they were after. And so, anyway, that's our presentation. If you have any questions or comments, that will be
Well,
great.
I do have a question. You talk about, you mentioned earlier on that the least effective, I guess, programs are the most common, and then the most effective programs are the least common.
Right.
And I'm wondering why, what explains that?
Well, there's tremendous pressure, I guess, from sometimes superintendents have no clue about what is bilingual education, what is the research in bilingual education, and they still think that pushing English and English and English is going to be the way, for students to be the most, achieve academically, right? And so, although there may be bilingual programs in the schools, they really don't support those bilingual programs. A lot of teachers tell me, I have a degree and even a master's degree in bilingual education, but my principal just wants me to teach primarily in English, right? A lot of these principals, they have a degree in administration, master's degree in administration, some a doctorate degree, but they have no clue about quality bilingual programs and the programs that are going to help children, to achieve academically. They have no clue. They are not familiar with the research, especially a lot of superintendents across this country, across the state of Texas, and even in El Paso. They do not know about bilingual education, and they think English is going to produce more English. And that's not the case according to the research, right? Because if children go to school and not being able to learn everything that they have to learn because they don't understand the language, why can't we use the native language to teach them the content while they're learning English, right? It's counterintuitive. It is really counterintuitive when you try to explain to principals and superintendents that using the native language so kids continue to learn the content that they have to learn when they go to school while they're learning English, and also teaching them English simultaneously, it's counterintuitive. And so they just want to implement programs that gets them quickly into English. Yeah. And so those are the programs that are not going to produce the best results. And so this is the programs that are being implemented in many schools, and they're not the quality programs. And those are the most common programs in the U.S., in Texas.
This troubles me, right? This troubles me partly because I understand that, okay, they're not effective.
Mhm.
And you as an advocate, right, you're not communicating to them. So there seems to be, again, if you're saying even here in El Paso, right? Because like my daughter went through the dual language program, that starts at Mesita and goes through El Paso High. And so, I've seen it
Yeah.
firsthand, right?
Yeah.
But I learned to speak Spanish as an adult, to the point where I'm fluent enough that I could teach classes in Spanish. So
Mhm.
I mean, it's a lived experience for me. But
Mhm.
what I'm struggling with here is, okay, are the superintendents not judged on like the effectiveness of the learning? So if you have this evidence that okay, if we have students coming in here from, say, Spanish speaking families, and the way to get them to achieve the levels that upon which the tests are
Mhm.
delivered, is it works fastest and best with starting in their mother tongue and then transitioning them to be also fluent in English. you
Mhm.
know what's happening here that they don't see that? I mean, is it I mean, I guess I don't understand, like, what's the gap that we're not, it's not getting communicated clearly.
Right. Well, we have a lot of conferences, a lot of workshops, a lot of things, in bilingual education, sharing the research and everything, but who attends those sessions? It's not the superintendents that come sometimes to our conferences, right? Nor the principals. Although
Mhm.
we do have a lot of principals that are just outstanding and, have some outstanding bilingual programs and some superintendents as well, because they've been selected superintendents of the year and so on and so forth. And we recognize them at the state and the national level at our conferences for the outstanding programs that they have. But the majority, who selects superintendents? It's the school board members, and those school board members really don't understand bilingual education either. So, we just have to, continuously, provide professional development, for a lot of people, um, for superintendents, for principals, for school board members. When we had the Beams conference here in El Paso, we used to have a school board member institute in Canutillo ISD during a real school board meeting, and their entire meeting was focused on a speaker that we would bring, internationally renowned, nationally renowned speaker. We had Jim Cummings, we had Virginia Collier and Wayne Thomas, who were outstanding educators in bilingual and researchers. And, the president of the board in Canutillo ISD, after he heard the speaker, Virginia Collier and Wayne Thomas, present, he stood up and he said, I have been wrong. I have been wrong because I have not been supporting bilingual education, but now I understand it. But he was there. It was due to a school board member institute that we had as part of our Beams conference, a local conference that I directed for about 23 years here in El Paso. And we
Yeah.
reached a lot of school board members because they are the ones that select the superintendents. Isleta had just an outstanding bilingual program for many years. And then they decided to hire a superintendent that came from California, right? California, which was in English only. And who selected the superintendent was the school board members that really didn't understand or care to understand, the quality programs that needed to be put in place to make sure that our students were achieving. So it just, that's what's happening. People are looking at the research, but not really believing that it is true, or they never even look at that research, right? So anyway, that's part of my answer.
True, but it's true.
Well, I guess I wouldn't lose hope. I mean, this is a thing where,
No.
again, if we talk about, like, the school board is a political office, right? And if we think about, of course, we have the drama that's going on in EPISD, and I guess Coro is getting there. They're interviewing for another superintendent. I mean, these things are swirling around us, but I I'm wondering about this in terms of like, how do you make this, again, being that I didn't grow up bilingual and then discovering, what it's beyond the ability to work. It's also like the cultural doors it opened. I mean, it's I very much remember the first time I went to a discada when I was learning
Yeah.
to speak Spanish, and I was working in Mexico in Juarez,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, oh my God, the this was something that was not available to me as being an English only speaker in the
Mhm.
United States, even though all of my friends are Hispanic, like literally,
Mhm.
the Anglo friends could count on one hand. So, I'm looking at this saying, okay, first there has to be an economic message, right? Because all school boards are under pressure financially,
Mhm.
right? With the reduction in student populations and so forth. The second is, there's the economic imperative for the community. How do we prepare students? And then, get across the message that you can't sacrifice some part of your population because, what's the most effective way to teach them? Because if you don't teach them, they drop out of school, which seems to be one of the failure modes that we want to prevent,
Mhm.
right? The
Right.
the students getting to graduation, being fully competent. I mean, that should be the driver, and this being an argument both for, economic capacity.
Mhm.
uh, that feels like that's the argument that you make to, school boards and to chambers of
Right.
commerce and so forth, which doesn't quite line up with, like, the things that I might say, oh yeah, you really get good things out of this, right? So that's the part where it's like, okay,
Well,
I'm persuaded.
we
I'm persuaded.
continue to have, conferences at the state level, the national level, workshops all the time online. But most of the time, who's there? It's the teachers, right? And the teachers, though, sometimes they say we don't have any support from our principal. Everything that I learned to do through my master's program, I cannot put in place. I have a niece here in the El Paso area. The school district will remain unnamed with a master's degree in bilingual education. He says, and my principal doesn't allow me to use Spanish in my class, right? Um, so we continue to work very, very hard to, get the word out on the research and everything. But a lot of this thing is counterintuitive, as I said. Why are you going to be teaching children in their native language while you want them to learn English? Well, because English is not just knowing the language, but having a content to talk about in English, right? And so we use the native language to make sure that children don't get behind, because that's the language, the stronger language, and that's the language they're going to be able to learn about math and science and social studies while they're learning English. And at some point, all of that comes together, so, but that doesn't make sense to a lot of people. If you want them to learn English, teach them in English, right? And only English. But how about the content
You
that they
interested in an exit interview with
Well, how long is the transition though? I mean, really, how long does it take to transition from native language to English language? I mean,
Well,
we're
it
talking a
depends on a
year,
lot of
2 years?
things. If kids are in a bilingual program, in a transitional program, which a transitional program is a remedial compensatory program and classified as one of the ineffective programs, right? Because what we're doing, we're transitioning kids totally out of their native language into English only. So we don't maintain or continue to develop their native language. But kids by the third grade are already, pretty proficient in English, but we have to continue, and in Spanish, being bilingual. By the sixth grade, they have a very solid proficiency in both English and Spanish. And that's in a two-way dual language program where the programs are being implemented the way they should be implemented, and the teacher is very well prepared to deliver instruction in two languages. So I would say, all the research that I've seen is saying that it takes from 6 to 7 years for kids to be fluently bilingual, but also have the academic content that they're supposed to have at the grade level in which they are enrolled.
So if I'm understanding this right, if we're speaking about, okay, like I'm thinking in terms of cost, right? Let's like how many faculty, how many teachers do we have to be deploy for this?
It's the
Are we
same number
basically
of,
saying, okay, that's what I wanted to be
it's
clear
the
is
same
we're
number
deploying
of teachers.
the same
It's
number of teachers. It's just they have to have the capacity to
right. They
teach
need
in
to have
two
the
languages.
capacity, right? Exactly. It's the same number of teachers because somebody that did a study on that was Virginia Collier and Wayne Thomas, and it said a bilingual program, a two-way dual language program, does not have to be more expensive than a regular. It's just you will have to use your money in a way that you are going to prepare teachers to be highly proficient in the work that they do and to teach in two languages, right? And to be able to serve the students that are English speakers, Spanish speakers, and they're in a two-way dual language program. You don't have to spend more money. People sometimes say, you do have to invest in materials in two languages, instructional materials in two languages, right? Um, but what are going to be the benefits of that academic achievement, right? Of students and having students retain instead of dropping out of high school or even by middle school, they have already mentally dropped out of school. They're just there. But anyway, the bilingual programs don't have to be much more expensive than certainly not additional teachers. Why would you need additional teachers? They have their same teachers, except that they need to be well prepared. This is why we have bilingual teacher preparation programs at all universities across this state and in many other states, right? So they complete their degrees being a bilingual teacher with an undergraduate or master's degree or doctoral degree with an emphasis in, dual language education, serving minority students, serving limited English proficient students, which we now call emergent bilinguals. Anyway, hope I answer your question.
Yeah, I think I guess from my perspective, it just feels like there's, it's a lost opportunity, and I don't know, I don't know what it, again, you can do all the research in the world. People aren't moved by facts. I mean, it's just a sad reality. But I do think that, again, as somebody who learned to speak Spanish as an adult and, knows the value of being bilingual, the arguments I could see coming up against it are really ones of cost and like maybe inconvenience. But I also kind of wonder with, I'm an adjunct faculty at UTEP right now, and like I'm teaching 3 classes and I only have a book for one of them, right? Because I'm just like mine's very practically oriented, and it's like, well, I'm teaching my children, my students to go out and gather the information out there because I'm preparing them to be professionals in the world. But I look at it and say, anymore the students are learning in a digital way, or with the digital tools, much less so with books and whatnot. And so, I'm sitting here thinking about with AI affecting, language translations and so forth, this is a very radical moment in, I think, instruction. And, you didn't really talk to that, but I'm sort of wondering, does that affect the approach that you guys are, talking about? How does it, does it affect it? And if so, how? Is it with the march of the digital age?
Yeah. Yeah, and we've done some integration of AI, into our instruction as well. But nothing's going to replace a person being bilingual. I mean, you can have, uh, digitally translating whatever, but the person's not going to be bilingual to be able to communicate effectively in their job, every single day. But
Oh, I'm not
yeah, we
disagreeing
can
with you.
do.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying, how does this influence the instruction that you're talking about? Like, again, you talked about the different techniques for approaching it. How is it like, because say 25 years ago, the digital tools were too expensive and not really effective. Nowadays,
Mhm.
everybody's carrying around a smartphone and has access to, at least in the modern countries or developed countries, you have access to so much, computer power that we
Right.
didn't, we could only fantasize about when I was a student, right? So that, and as I said, with my students, I don't give them a book because I'm like, anything they need to learn, I can say, well, go to websites, go to YouTube or whatever, or I can give you something that I develop. But at the end of the day, it's having this significant effect. And I'm wondering, like, as you're teaching the students, how is this changing the instruction, or does it? And maybe it doesn't. I'm totally open to you saying it. Yeah, it makes no effect.
Yeah, and maybe Dr. Lugo can elaborate on that because I've been talking too much.
No, that's fine. And it's true. It's one of the topics from my school. How is AI going to influence instruction? Last year, they were totally against it. And I told my students, look, you need to have the power of knowledge and then decide how to use AI. Because if you're just focusing on AI and you're doing reports and they're fantastic, but it's not you. It has to have your personality in there. So now this year they have been kind of okay. We're not gonna go against it like 100%. We're gonna tell you how to use it when you're a senior, when you're ready to go to college. You need to know that it's out there. You need to know how to use it.
And then we didn't buy anything, and then we just started advocating money.
On that aspect of not saying forget it, 100% wrong, but I want my freshmen to think that I can do AI and I don't have to study. I don't need to know it.
We got water. We just
So
went in.
are trying to mature.
I had a bottle of water just okay.
I hear other conversation. I'm sorry.
Hold on, maybe I did.
Jack, we have another conversation.
Is there another conversation going on?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Keith was picking up some background noise.
Some background noise, right?
There's background noise here, so I don't know where it's coming from, but I can't hear very, very well. But
I want to say a few words for you. Okay.
Yes.
We have had several speakers during the year talking mainly about the technical aspect. Okay. But you brought a new wave to us, in order to have a better understanding about the power of communication using the bilingual, approach. Okay.
Yes.
And thank you for that, because I never seen something so thorough, complete about the two languages. So it's absolutely important. It's absolutely great. And Yvonne, as you say, we have manufacturing, we have engineering, we have many areas in which the English, application varies, is different. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm gonna use my example.
Yes.
I've been living all my life in business, right? So whenever I was in front of the people talking, easy for me to make them understand my purpose, my goals. Okay. But let me tell you, you are gonna laugh. I married an American woman in 2000. Okay. More than 20 years ago. And the English at home was different.
Wow.
Yeah. I still remember one time I was doing a cookout and my steak was on the rib, and the grill. And then I was calling my new wife, give me something to flip it, otherwise it's going to burn up. And I couldn't say, give me the tongues. Okay. So language is so wide, it's so vast. Okay. In either field. At home, on the street, in the business, in engineering, in the medical health, you talk with the doctors, you're not going to understand many words they say. So really communication, as you put it together, Yvonne, is absolutely true. And it's great to understand, and maybe it's not going to be possible to understand everything.
No.
Only in the field you want to do your business in your life. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's so vast. Okay. One
It's so
time I heard that English language was so thorough, okay, in such a way that you want to explain something, you can do it, in English. There are some other languages, like Spanish, for example, is not as good as English in the technical side. Okay.
There you go.
I still remember when I was studying physics,
Mm-hmm.
we were talking, about a problem, and then at the end of the conversation, we were fighting. Oh, I thought you were saying this. No, I thought, come on, guy. Yeah, because
Yeah.
in language is more misunderstandings because you use different words, but in English it's more precise. That's why I like English a lot.
More precise.
Okay. Yeah. And you know about the languages. How do you consider English between all the languages that we have in the world in terms of accuracy?
Right.
Yeah, accuracy is important. Yes, definitely. Yes. Technical
Okay.
stuff, everything. Yes.
Okay,
It's
great.
global.
Well,
Yeah, English is great, really. I've been
Yes.
working with Chinese people for more than 10 years. Ask me why I learned about Chinese. Zero.
What? Zero. And you
Nothing.
still communicate.
It's extremely difficult,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
And English is
Don't separate the
it-
heart of a student from their background. Don't hurt it, but embrace it and make it stronger with two languages.
yeah,
Because once you have one language, it's very easy to transition. That happened to me. I was 12 years old. I had only 5 words in English, and now I did my doctoral degree in English, technical English. You can do it, but they were not against my language. They were not telling me don't speak Spanish. I was embracing English.
right.
I was learning with both languages.
Even though, Yvonne, I heard people saying that Spanish is for poems,
No,
not for technical issues. To make poems, how about that? Okay, but English is more precise, more accurate, for technical issues, for science.
well,
Yeah.
have
Mhm.
both brains, both of the hemisphere of the brains. Yes, help both of
Yeah.
your, and it helps your brain to have languages. One of my friends had an accident, and because she knows 3 languages, she could go ahead and get better faster. That's what the doctor said. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
All
But
right.
it
Well,
helped her.
Mhm.
it's been a pleasure. I have
Yes.
something else right
Well-
now at 8 o'clock Paso time in a few minutes, but it's been a great pleasure to get to know you and to present at this, this meeting. And I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to share some of the work that we're doing. Yeah, but
No,
I
I
think
continue-
Lugo might be able to stay a little bit longer, but I've got another commitment right now at 8.
Well, thanks very
Yeah.
much
Thanks
for
for
sharing your
the
time
great
and your
presentation. It was
expertise.
great, really.
Thank you again.
Okay.
Thank you,
One
Dr.
question
King.
to you.
Thanks.
Do you
Yes.
authorize us to generate the video of this conference and publish it on our ASQ website?
Yes, sir. I
Yeah.
do. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you again.
All right. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to
right.
get to
Thank you,
know all of
thank
you,
you.
and we wish you
All right. We
well.
enjoy it a lot.
Y adelante,
Dr. King.
vamos adelante. Seguimos con nuestro
Gracias.
trabajo.
Claro que
Thank you.
sí.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, anybody that wants recertification points needs to send a chat message to everyone with their name, ASQ member number, and email address. And
Yes.
I'll have this forwarded to our section secretary to have him send out the certification points. All right,
Thank you, Jack. Yes,
Thank you.
Jack. Thank you.
thank you again.
All right. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, Hector, recover soon. We're gonna play golf next week.
No, no golf.
I
No.
don't think so.
No,
No.
no.
Oh man. All right. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.
Jack, I've got a